Now, of course, we're all familiar with the science. We know the Earth tilts on its axis. So if you look at the North and the South Pole as like the top and the bottom of the Earth tilts or slants on its side, which tilts and slants everything at a sideways angle toward the sun. And remember, the Earth's axis is basically a line that starts at the North Pole and ends at the South Pole. And so with the Earth being tilted on its axis, the axis of the Earth is tilted or slanted at 23 degrees. And that 23-degree tilt varies between 23.5 and 23.4 degrees. And currently, right now, the Earth is tilted at 23.4 degrees. And when you line that 23.4 degree tilt with the equatorial plane of the Earth, where the Earth's circumference balances and equals out, it places that tilt of the Earth's axis to the equator at 66.6 degrees, which means that the Earth is actually tilting from north to south at an angle of 66.6 degrees, which is causing the poles to tilt at 66.6 degrees, because we have the polar circles, or the Arctic and the Antarctic circles, those areas that encompass a large part of the northern and southern polar regions. Basically, the areas closest to the north and closest to the south, where you see the sun in the sky for over 24 hours because of that tilt. And again, that tilt is slanting the Earth's poles 66.6 degrees. 66.6 degrees north, 66.6 degrees south. And of course, we know that tilt is what's giving us seasons, time zones, the different climates on the Earth, because of the way the Earth is slanting toward the sun and away from the sun. This tilt is set at this precise angle that is creating the perfect conditions for life on this planet. Literally, if Earth was at any other angle, life as we know it would not exist on this planet. And they're saying that part of what's helping to keep the Earth at this steady angle is the moon. That the moon is keeping the Earth tilted toward the sun. The gravitational pull of the moon is keeping the Earth tilted at 23.4 degrees. Or 66.6 degrees. Because of that attraction between the moon and the Earth is set at this 66.6 degree tilt at the highest point of its axis. The moon's gravity is preventing the Earth's tilt from, shifting erratically, and it's providing what they call a training wheels effect, basically anchoring the Earth's axis at the perfect angle toward the sun, to create a habitable climate on the Earth, stable seasons, making sure all organic life can grow on the planet. They're saying that the moon is stabilizing this entire process. And that when the moon formed, that it formed at the perfect size and perfect shape to have the exact gravitational influence necessary to stabilize the Earth's tilt. So if the moon was any smaller, any bigger, it wouldn't have the same influence on the Earth, and the Earth would not be set at this angle. And remember, the moon was supposed to have formed from that giant impact between the planet Earth and the planet Theia. The moon is supposed to be remnants of that impact that formed after the impact and orbited around the Earth. So basically, without this planet Theia crashing into the Earth, impacting the Earth, we would not have the moon, which means we wouldn't have that stabilizing force to keep the Earth at that perfect tilt, to give us life as we know it on this planet. And they're saying that not only did this crash from Theia give us our moon, but they're also saying that this planet crashing into the Earth is possibly what tilted it on its side. That when Theia crashed into the Earth, that impact of that crash may have tilted the Earth on its axis, slanting it 23 degrees.
The tilt of our planet's rotational axis is about 23 degrees currently, and it's that tilt that gives us our overall seasonal pattern. It turns out that if we didn't have our moon, or if we had a moon but it was just smaller than our current moon, that interactions with the other planets in the solar system would cause Earth's rotational axis to vary by many tens of degrees. It would certainly have been an entirely different climate and a different Earth than we have today. And so in this way, the formation of our moon and the formation of our moon, of just the mass of our moon, has had a very important impact on the evolution of the Earth's spin state, and with it, the evolution of our long-term climate. So we think the moon formed when the Earth was struck by a very large object as the Earth was forming. So this would have been a separately formed planet, but it collided with the Earth and ultimately was absorbed by the Earth and gave birth to our moon. The idea that the moon formed by this giant collision with the Earth was first proposed in the mid-70s. And yet, we couldn't test the idea initially. For smaller scale collisions, you can perform experiments in the laboratory, but you can't perform an experiment of what happens when two planets collide in any laboratory setting. To do this, you need to build a computational model to simulate the planets and their response to the collision, as in essence a virtual laboratory, to test how the outcome depends on things like the size of the impactor, the impact speed and angle, and use the overall results to assess the likelihood of forming a moon like ours. On a timescale of a few hours, an enormous shock wave from the impact would have propagated around the entire surface of the Earth. The momentum, the force of this collision, is enough to start the Earth rotating very rapidly. And so only hours after this impact, the Earth has a rapid rotation rate. So in terms of the impactor, which we often call Theia, we think that based on its mass, that it would have been as big as the planet Mars. The reason that we focus on a Mars-size impactor is that that is the impactor size that if you hit the Earth with a Mars-size impactor at an off-center angle at the expected speed, you will start the Earth spinning, but it turns out that is what is needed to agree with our current 24-hour day with the moon at its current distance.
But why do we have seasons on the planet Earth? Well, while Earth travels around the sun in a circle, the axis, or the point stretching between the North Pole and the South Pole, wobbles a little bit, and it creates the 4 seasons. But why did this all start? Well, hey, watch out. That was from a planet called Theia. It was the size of Mars and collided with Earth about 4.5 billion years ago, causing the axis to tilt back and forth, creating seasons here on Earth. And the debris from this planet's impact on Earth created our moon, which is still in orbit. So the more you know about our seasons here on Earth. Reporting on the weather deck, I'm meteorologist Violet Skyber. Back to you.
So without this planet Theia impacting the Earth, we don't have the moon, and we don't have life as we know it on this planet. So again, without this planet Theia, they're saying we don't have the tilt of the Earth, the rotation of the Earth, which again is giving us our 4 seasons, making this planet habitable, creating an environment for organic life to thrive. And again, that the gravity of the moon is stabilizing this tilt, which we wouldn't have without this impact from Theia. And they're saying that once the moon formed and began to orbit the Earth, that the gravitational pull of the moon actually helped to slow down the Earth's rotation to 0.000694 revolutions per minute to give the Earth a 24-hour rotation. So not only is the moon stabilizing the Earth's tilt, it is stabilizing the Earth's rotation. And again, without Theia impacting the Earth, we don't have the moon. And they're not just saying that this impact from Theia formed the moon. They're actually saying that when Theia crashed into the Earth, that it carried water and carbon with it. And that when it slammed into the Earth, that all this water and all this carbon was infused with the Earth. And we know about 50% of the Earth's oxygen comes from water, comes from the ocean. And that 99.9% of all life on the Earth is carbon based. And again, they're saying that Theia brought water and carbon onto the Earth when it impacted the Earth. And that the energy of that impact potentially helped to form the Earth's magnetic field, which is helping to protect us from harmful solar radiation. They are literally saying that when Theia crashed into the Earth, when it impacted the Earth, that it helped to set the stage for the formation of life on the planet. That the Earth and Theia coming together is what gave us life as we know it on this planet. So basically that Theia was essential to giving us life on this planet. That all the essential building blocks for life were given to the Earth by Theia, and basically transformed the Earth into what it is today. All of this started with Theia. And remember, pieces of Theia, pieces of that ancient planet, are supposed to be trapped inside the Earth, trapped deep down in the Earth's mantle. Because after the Earth collided, pieces of what was left of Theia was supposed to have gotten trapped down there, trapped in the mantle. And those pieces of Theia are what they're scientifically calling the large low shear velocity provinces. Those two anomalies that are the size of continents sitting deep down inside the Earth, deep down in the mantle. And remember, after those pieces attached to the inside of the Earth, the rest of those pieces of Theia and the Earth joined together, orbited around the Earth, and formed the moon. So basically, pieces of the Earth and Theia coming together created the moon. So the moon is pieces of the planet Earth and pieces of the planet Theia, meaning there are pieces of the planet Theia within the moon. Remember, they're saying that Theia is responsible for giving us life as we know it on the Earth. So they're basically saying that the reason for life on Earth as we know it is not only sitting deep down inside the Earth, but it's also sitting within the moon. So Theia is present in the Earth and present in the moon. You got remnants of Theia in both the Earth and the moon. And remember what that name Theia means. It means a god or a goddess or a divine one, a divine being, an extremely advanced or god-like being. So you can look at this as them saying that remnants of a divine being are sitting deep down inside the Earth and sitting within the moon. Remnants of a divine being, a god or a goddess that is responsible for giving us life as we know it on the Earth. Remember, Theia is a planet that is separate from the Earth, a body in space that is outside of the Earth. So Theia would be an extraterrestrial body in space that collided with the Earth billions of years ago. So basically an ancient extraterrestrial body in space. So again, you could see this as them saying that something ancient and extraterrestrial responsible for giving us life on Earth as we know it and responsible for stabilizing that life on the Earth is sitting inside the Earth and sitting inside the moon. That what is sitting inside the Earth is not from the Earth, that it is extraterrestrial. and that it is also inside the moon, that it gave us life on this planet, and that they see what is down inside the earth and on the moon as Theia, as a divine one, that they see it as God-like, as a God-like entity. And that when it collided with the earth, that it tilted the earth on its axis from north to south, 66.6 degrees. And that when it attached itself to the earth, that it was attached to the mantle, specifically to the middle of the mantle transition zone, that 660 kilometer discontinuity. That again, when they measure it, is sitting at an approximate depth of 666 kilometers. When they measure where it ends, where the base or the lowest part of the mantle transition zone is, it looks like it stops 666 kilometers down into the earth. Because right after 666 kilometers, the velocity completely shifts. It increases, as if after 666 kilometers, we are moving past some type of structure that is slowing those waves down, some type of structure that stops right at 666 kilometers down into the earth, as if those large low shear velocity provinces, those pieces of Theia, stop right at 666 kilometers down into the earth. So it's as if they are saying, when Theia crashed into the earth, impacted the earth, that it tilted the earth's poles 66.6 degrees. And that after it tilted the poles 66.6 degrees, that the remnants of Theia, everything connected to Theia that remained after that impact, again, those remnants were trapped in the middle of the Earth's mantle, 666 kilometers down into the earth, in the mantle transition zone, which, based off of some of this scientific research and some of these scientific findings, seems like it may be able to be reached from the poles, from the north and the south poles, that there may be access down into this region directly at both the north and the south poles, that we may be able to get down to that mantle transition zone from the north and the south poles, because you got some of those scientific findings that seem to indicate that we have sediment deformation or massive openings in the rock at the north and the south pole. Deformation in those rocks going down through the crust and all the way down through the upper mantle, leading directly down to this part of the earth, to the middle of the mantle, to the mantle transition zone, to those large low shear velocity provinces, to those pieces of Theia, which again, when they made contact with the earth, tilted the northern and southern latitudes of the earth, the Arctic and the Antarctic, 66.6 degrees. So we have this 66.6 degree tilt at the poles, right where we may also have access to these provinces, these large low shear velocity provinces sitting in the mantle that may be able to be reached from the poles. Again, these ancient extraterrestrial remnants of Theia that are dropping down 666 kilometers deep down into the earth. And remember, in Greek mythology, Theia is one of the titans, one of the gods locked away in that subterranean prison, Tartarus, imprisoned deep down within the earth after that massive war where the titans are defeated and sent down to Tartarus. Theia is supposed to be locked away deep down in the earth with the rest of these ancient gods, with the rest of the titans, banished to the deepest part of the underworld, And within the mythology, Theia is the daughter of Gaia and Uranus. Uranus representing the heavens or the universe, and Gaia representing the earth. So if you get it, it's basically saying that Theia is an offspring of the universe that was born within the earth, that was born within Gaia, her mother. So a titan or a god whose original origins starts within the earth. So Theia is tied to the universe, tied to the heavens, tied to outer space, but her original place of origin originates in the earth. And then also in the mythology, Theia is the wife of the titan Hyperion, and her and Hyperion join together and birth the sun and the moon. Sol and Luna come from the titans Theia and Hyperion. And that name Hyperion actually means he who watches from above, or watcher from above, because Hyperion is supposed to represent the light of heaven, the light of the cosmos, basically all the celestial objects lighting up the universe, all the bright objects that we see above us. Hyperion is supposed to represent. So again, when you say that name, Hyperion, you're really saying he who watches from above, or watcher from above. And just above us within our solar system, we can find Hyperion. Hyperion is actually a moon of Saturn. It's a very small, abnormally shaped moon of Saturn. They say it's Saturn's biggest non-spherical shaped moon. The biggest of the moons that doesn't have that perfectly round, regular shape to it, because it's extremely misshapen. It almost has like an oval shape to it. And it's not perfectly rounded out anywhere. It's kind of flat. It's not perfectly rounded out. But again, it is a very small moon. It's only about 255 miles long. So the longest part of this thing, on its longest side, is only 255 miles, which is about as big as the state of Pennsylvania. So this thing is extremely small. Like if you compared it to our moon, which is 2,100 miles wide. Again, the longest part of this thing is only 255 miles wide, about the size of one of the states in America. And again, it's got this really abnormal shape that you normally don't see when you're dealing with the moon. And it's just got this very odd look to it. A lot of people describe it as looking like a sponge because it's got a bunch of cavities in it, a bunch of pores. It's extremely cavernous. It's extremely porous. There's almost not one area on this thing where you will not find pores, where you not find cavities. And normally those type of indentations indicate some type of impact, that this thing was maybe struck a massive amount of times, that each one of those cavities or pores could be from an individual impact. And when you look at it, it almost looks like it's incomplete, like it's not a full object, like it's not a complete object, almost like a broken off piece of something, like a piece of an object that broke off and is now floating out there by itself, which has caused a lot of theories that Hyperion is actually the remnant of a much larger moon, that this is actually just a small piece of a much more massive moon that was destroyed by a major impact, and that what we see now is the last piece of this moon that completely shattered from this impact. That whenever this impact occurred, that it completely decimated almost this entire moon, and that what we see now is all that is left after that impact, because it also has this really strange rotation to it where it basically tumbles when it rotates. So instead of spinning around in like a 360 motion, this thing tumbles and flips when it rotates. Again, almost like it was hit by something erratically, which caused it to start tumbling and flipping, and it just never stopped flipping over on itself. And we got caught in that tumbling rotation after that potential impact. And of course, because of all these cavities and pores and the way it's shaped, this thing is completely uninhabitable. But it does have a very thin, almost undetectable atmosphere on it. I mean, it almost might as well not be there, but it shows that there is a hint of an atmosphere there that maybe at one point was expanded a lot more. And on this thing, there also is water. Actually, over 40% of this thing is covered in water. And we already know where you have water, you have the potential for life. But because of the lack of atmosphere, all these pores, all these cavities within it, all of the water on it is in the form of ice. But again, this water ice covers over 40% of this thing. So all of this water ice suggests that, Hyperion may have been habitable at one point in time. And one of the really odd things about this moon is that it has a very strong electrostatic charge on its surface. The charge on the surface of this thing is so strong that a satellite passing by it was hit by a 200-volt electrical shock from Hyperion. So again, the static electrical charge on this thing is intense. And it is the only other object in our solar system with a consistent static electrically charged surface throughout the entire object, other than our own moon and the planet Mars. And remember, our own moon also has a bunch of craters and cavities in it, as if it was struck a massive amount of times. Now, granted, all of this static electricity could be from it being exposed to, ultraviolet light, cosmic rays, and other charged particles that it picked up from interstellar space. But you can't help but question, could this static electrical charge on the surface of Hyperion be the residual, the residue, what is left over from whatever struck Hyperion when it was a larger moon and destroyed it, leaving it as what it is today? You got a question. Could Hyperion have been a moon that had some type of life on it before it was destroyed by something that maybe left this static electrical mark on it? And remember, Hyperion is supposed to be connected to Theia in the mythology. Theia and Hyperion are supposed to have a strong connection. And then within the science, Hyperion is a moon of Saturn. And Theia was supposed to have come from somewhere within the solar system and attached itself to the Earth. The planet Theia was supposed to have formed within our solar system, but we don't know exactly where. Officially it's thought that it collided with the Earth coming from somewhere within our solar system, but we do not know where this thing came from. So you got a question. Could Theia have come from Saturn? Because remember, Hyperion is potentially just a piece of a much larger moon that was destroyed by a massive impact. So the question is, could Theia have come to the Earth and created our moon after this Hyperion moon was destroyed in this mysterious impact? Because you got the potential of Hyperion being destroyed, Theia crashing into the Earth, and pieces of Theia being trapped inside the Earth. And then you got the mythology telling us about a war where the Titans, the ancient gods, are defeated and trapped deep inside the Earth. It all just seems to connect. And all of it seems to point back to Saturn. And in the mythology, Theia and Saturn are siblings. They're brother and sister, with them both being Titans, both being gods. So again, in the mythology, Theia is directly connected to Saturn. And of course, being siblings, both Theia and Saturn come from Uranus, or come from the heavens, from, the universe, outer space. And remember, Saturn castrates his father, Uranus, which cuts Uranus off from his connection to his wife, Gaia. And Hyperion is actually one of the Titans who holds Uranus down while his brother Saturn castrates him. Hyperion is actually there holding Uranus down as Saturn castrates and breaks Uranus's connection to Gaia. And again, Uranus is the heavens, the universe, outer space, and Gaia is the Earth. So basically, when Saturn castrates Uranus and cuts off his connection to Gaia, it's basically like saying that Saturn cut off the Earth's connection to outer space, to the universe, to the rest of the universe. That Saturn has cut off the Earth's connection to the heavens. And that somehow Theia has played a role in all of this, which ultimately ended with remnants of Theia, remnants of this divine one, this godlike entity being trapped deep inside the Earth, 666 kilometers down in the mantle. And when Theia impacted the Earth, remember, most likely brought carbon with it. And we know 98.9% of the carbon on Earth is carbon-12. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. But we've also got remnants of Theia sitting inside the moon, which is keeping the Earth at this 66.6 degree tilt from north to south. So it seems like we got a lot of esoteric things going on here. Seeing that number 666 a lot, like we're being very subtly clued into something, specifically in relation to what is going on inside the Earth. And what's interesting is when you look at the story in 1 Samuel 28, in the first 14 verses, you got Saul, who is the king of Israel. And King Saul is in the middle of this massive war with the Philistines. And when Saul sees the Philistine army, he is like, there is no way we are going to be able to defeat this army. So he tries to go to the Lord for answers, and the Lord does not answer him. You know, he's basically lost his connection to the Lord. And normally in situations like this, he would go to Samuel, with Samuel being his top military advisor. But at this point, Samuel has passed away. So he no longer has Samuel to look to, for that guidance of how him and his troops can win this war. So Saul decides to go to a medium to seek answers. And a medium is basically somebody that can communicate with the spirit world or channel entities that exist somewhere where they can't be reached by us physically. So he wants to go through this medium to get in contact with Samuel to get answers about this war that he is in the middle of trying to command. And Saul had actually created a law where he had placed a ban on all mediums, all spiriters, all people with familiar spirits. Basically, anybody dabbling in what would be considered witchcraft is banned. So he actually goes to meet this medium in the middle of the night in secret while wearing a disguise. Because again, he's the king, and without that disguise, anybody would recognize him. So he goes to meet this medium, and there's a moment where she freaks out because she realizes that it's Saul. And she's like, wait a minute, you banned all mediums, all wizards, all familiar spirits, everybody practicing witchcraft from the land. And he assures her that everything is going to be all right. And he says, bring me up Samuel. So the medium starts to conjure Samuel up, and she all of a sudden seems terrified. And Saul asks her, what do you see? And she says, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And Saul is basically like, wait a minute, what did they look like? And she says, an old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul realizes this is Samuel, and he falls face first to the ground and bows down to him. So this medium tries to contact Samuel, and she sees gods ascending out of the earth. So gods, plural, multiple beings, coming up from out of the earth. So basically from inside the earth. And she sees an old man covered with a mantle. So an old man, basically an ancient being covered with a mantle. So an ancient being covered with a mantle, ascending out of the earth as a god, in the form of a god. Now, obviously, we got a lot going on here, and it seems like we are dealing with a lot more than just the prophet Samuel. And because of that, a lot of people think that when this medium conjured up Samuel, that she actually conjured up Samael. Different spelling, but almost the exact same name as Samuel. Only Samael is an archangel, and in many cases is considered a fallen angel. Actually, one of the highest ranking fallen angels. Samael is considered the king of all demons. He's actually supposed to have produced a legion of demons with Lilith, the very first female demon. So Samael is supposed to be where all demons, all demonic activity spawns from. And when you start to get deep into the occult, Samael is actually considered the true name of Satan. And he's considered the leader or the chief of the Satans, because there's supposed to be multiple Satans, multiple beings that take on this name. And Samael is considered the leader of these beings that work to test and tempt humanity, assigned by God to test and tempt humanity, basically to be an adversary, a Satan, to force you to confront the darker aspects of yourself. Again, Samael is considered the leader of the adversaries. That name Samael literally means venom of God or poison of God. In the Gnostic teachings, Samael is one of the archons, or one of the ancient rulers of the physical universe, that is actually responsible for creating the material world and trapping human souls in the physical realm, the demiurge. And when you start digging deeper into Orthodox beliefs, he's supposed to be the one that planted the tree of knowledge in the garden, opening up humanity to certain knowledge before they were ready, basically being the first Satan to tempt humanity. He's also supposed to be the angel that initiates the rebellion against God. He's supposed to be the one that starts the rebellion against God, the one that leads the army, actually multiple armies, against God, which sparks the war in heaven and leads to the fallen angels, the watchers, corrupting the earth. All of this is sparked from Samael. And because of that, Samael is supposed to be chained down in darkness, in hell, with the rest of the fallen angels, the rest of the watchers, after rebelling against God and corrupting the earth. Samael is supposed to have led off this rebellion against God and the corruption of the earth. He's supposed to have been the first watcher, or the first of these divine angelic beings, to create chaos. And again, because of this, he's supposed to be chained deep down in the earth. And again, within the occult, Samael is connected to the planet Mars. He is associated with Mars because he has those strong ties to warfare, rebellion, destruction, that war energy, which Mars represents. So again, through the occult, when you're talking about Samael, you are talking about Mars. And again, think about what they're saying about Theia, that a Mars-sized object impacted the earth, that something the size of Mars came from somewhere in the solar system and made a massive impact on the earth, that it was a Mars-sized entity that came into contact with the earth, knocked the earth into a different alignment, into a different state of existence, and is now sitting inside the earth, in the mantle. That there are remnants of a Mars-like entity, remnants of this, by definition, divine being, Theia, remnants of this God, sitting in the mantle of the earth. And again, we look at 1 Samuel 28, where you have Saul in this medium trying to make contact with Samuel, trying to conjure up Samuel. And when the medium reaches out for Samuel, she sees gods ascending out of the earth. And when Saul asks her, "What form is he?" she says, "An old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle." So again, she sees gods ascending out of the earth, and these gods are in the form of an old man, someone aged, someone ancient, covered with a mantle. Now, when looking at the time frame when this would have happened, or the time frame when this was written in that Old Testament, Abrahamic time frame, being covered in a mantle would mean to be covered in some type of robe, like a robe or a cape with a hood attached, something that covers someone completely. In other words, a cloak, because the word mantle derives from the word cloak. The word mantle means cloak, which again is a robe or a cape with a hood that was worn back in ancient times. But when you use that word as a verb, it also means to cover up, hide, or conceal something, like something being cloaked in mystery. And literally the word mantle as a verb is when something is being cloaked, covered up, when something is being concealed, when something is being hidden. So when that verse says God's ascending out of the earth in the form of an old man covered with a mantle, when Samuel is conjured up, you got to question if there is something deeper being said with this. Because we know when we're dealing with the Bible, we're dealing with allegories, stories with a deeper meaning, hidden messages, concealed messages, cloaked messages. And if you look at this differently, it's like this verse is saying these gods, these divine beings, are hidden or concealed inside the earth, in the mantle. Then we're talking about the fallen angels, the watchers inside the earth, cloaked inside the earth, covered by the mantle. If you look at how all of this could connect, it's almost like they are telling us that the watchers, aka Hyperion, the watcher from above, cut the earth off from the rest of the universe. Uranus, the universe, through Saturn, that the watchers cut the earth off from the rest of the universe through Saturn. And again, it's like they're saying there was a war. Most of the watchers were destroyed. And the last of what was connected to these watchers, Theia, the last remnants of these divine beings, ended up on the earth and made some type of impact on the earth that tilted the earth into a 66.6 degree state. They brought life as we know it onto the earth, which again, every living thing on earth is carbon based, specifically carbon 12, which makes up 98.9% of the physical world. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. 666, the material world. And after sending the earth into this state, this remnant of these godlike beings ended up trapped inside the earth, in the mantle, 666 kilometers down. Like they say, Theia is sitting in the mantle. And in ancient philosophy, you actually had something called Theia mania, or what they called Theia madness, or divine madness, the madness of the gods, which was this idea that going outside of the box, thinking outside of the box, acting outside of the norm, non-conformity, going in the opposite direction of the norm leads to divine wisdom, divine knowledge, divine understanding, ultimate spiritual enlightenment. That chaos and turmoil brought on by the gods, by Theia, leads to ultimate truth. That with the disruption of normality comes divine wisdom. That's where we get that quote. It is only through mystery and madness that the soul is revealed. So basically, it's only through theomania, through the madness of the gods, that we're able to fully tap into the soul's journey. We're able to fully tap into the divine wisdom of the soul. And again, think about what seems to be ultimately being said through this information. when this divine entity, something potentially godlike, made its presence felt on the earth, made that impact on the earth, it initiated some sort of chaos that changed the planet Earth forever, potentially sending us on a path toward divine enlightenment for a greater purpose that we may not fully understand.